You ever have that feeling you know exactly what you're supposed to do in a trade, but you end up doing the complete opposite? Yeah, you're not alone. In fact, that internal battle you're having, it's the single biggest reason most traders fail. So today, we're going to get into that. We're going to uncover the hidden psychological forces that are really pulling the strings on your trading decisions.
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and start with a pretty brutal fact. This number right here, 90%. That's the percentage of traders who fail and wash out within their very first year. Think about that for a second. 9 out of 10. That's not just bad luck. That is a pattern.
So why do so many people fail? Well, most of them blame the stuff they can see, the tip of the iceberg. They'll say, oh, my strategy was wrong, or I just didn't have enough capital. But the pros, they know the real reason is what's hidden deep below the surface. It's your trading psychology. It's that invisible force that makes you repeat the same costly mistakes over and over again.
And that brings us to the core idea we're going to unpack. Trading's psychological trap. See, every single person who starts trading comes to the table with a kind of default psychological setting. And here's the problem. That default setting is almost always wired for failure in the markets.
We call this default mode the incomplete trader. What it means is that you're operating from just one dominant personality style, one temperament. And the reason that's a problem is because the market is always changing, always shifting. It demands psychological flexibility. And a single, rigid approach, well, it just can't keep up. So, what are these defaults? Well, there are 4 main types of incomplete traders. And as we go through them, I want you to be really honest with yourself. Try to figure out which one sounds the most like you, right now. Because believe me, just knowing which box you fit in, that's half the battle. All right, here they are at a glance. You've got the aggressive beginner, the validation seeker, the paralyzed perfectionist, and the safety seeker. Each one of these has a core psychological flaw that leads to a very specific and honestly a very predictable way of failing. So let's break them down one by one.
First up, the aggressive beginner. This is the choleric temperament. Now, this trader feels super confident, they're decisive, they're ambitious, they want results, and they want them yesterday. But here's the catch. What they call ambition is really just a mask for crippling impatience. And that impatience is exactly what blows up their account. They're constantly overtrading, using way too much leverage. And when a trade goes against them, they completely ignore their stop loss because they're convinced they're right and the market's wrong. And of course, after a loss, they immediately jump back in to revenge trade and get their money back. They just cannot sit on their hands. Sound familiar?
Okay, next up we have the validation seeker, or the sanguine temperament. Now, this trader's problem is the polar opposite of the aggressive beginner. They don't trust themselves at all. They're always looking for someone else, a mentor, a Discord group, a signal service, to basically give them permission to take a trade.
And all their failures come from this need for approval. They'll find a perfect setup, post it in a group chat, and if even one person says, I don't know, they'll ditch the whole idea. They're constantly chasing whatever stock or coin is trending on Twitter out of pure FOMO. And when they have to trade alone, without that constant feedback loop, they're completely lost. All right, on to our third type, the paralyzed perfectionist, the melancholic trader. Now, this person is brilliant. They've read all the books, they've watched hundreds of hours of videos, their charts look like a work of art. They know everything, but they are completely frozen by the fear of being wrong.
And that's what gets them. They sit there waiting for just one more perfect confirmation. And then, whoosh, the trade takes off without them. For them, the fear of being wrong is way stronger than the desire to be right. So they end up spending all their time studying and almost no time actually trading, stuck in a classic case of analysis paralysis. And finally, we've got this safety seeker, or the phlegmatic temperament. This trader is all about being careful. They're obsessed with capital preservation, with not losing money. And hey, that sounds pretty smart on the surface, right? But their extreme caution actually stops them from ever making any real progress.
You know this trader because their account is just flat. It never goes anywhere. They risk such tiny amounts of money that even a big winning trade barely moves the needle. They'll sit out any volatile periods, which, by the way, is where the biggest opportunities usually are. Their whole mindset is defensive. They're way more focused on not losing than they are on winning, prioritizing comfort over the growth that actually requires taking a calculated risk.
Okay, you probably saw a little bit of yourself in one of those, right? Maybe a lot, but here is the most important part of all of this. This isn't a life sentence. It's not a permanent diagnosis. It's just your starting point. So now let's talk about how you move from being an incomplete trader to a complete one. Right, this is the million-dollar question. How do you actually fix these deep psychological habits? Well, I can tell you it's not about willpower. It's not about just gritting your teeth and trying to be more disciplined. The answer is actually a lot more practical. The path to becoming a master trader isn't about getting rid of your natural personality. It's about integration. A complete trader learns how to borrow the best parts of the other types when the market calls for it. So they can channel the safety seeker's patience while they wait for a setup, then use the perfectionist's sharp analytical skills to confirm it, and then they pull the trigger with the aggressive beginner's decisiveness. See how that works? And this brings us to what might be the single most important ideal we'll talk about. It's this. Retail traders are controlled by their temperament. Their feelings, fear, greed, impatience are in the driver's seat. Professionals? They control their temperament with systems. Their rules are in the driver's seat. So let's make this super practical. Let's talk about your path. Here is a clear, actionable way to start building the systems that will help you master your own psychology and become that complete trader. It really comes down to a simple 3-step plan. Number 1, you have to be brutally honest with yourself and identify your dominant type. Number 2, you have to look that type's core weakness right in the eye. Is it impatience? Is it fear of being wrong? Is it needing approval? And number 3, and this is everything, you build a hard, written-down, non-negotiable rule, a system that is specifically designed to block that weakness. Let me say that one more time, because this is the whole game. Willpower always fails when you're under pressure. You can't just decide not to revenge trade when you're seeing red after a big loss. But you can follow a simple rule that says, after any 5% loss, I shut down my computer for the rest of the day. No exceptions. A system is what protects you from yourself when you're at your absolute weakest. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. I want you to take a hard look at your own trading. What you're doing day in and day out. Is it a conscious, rule-based system that's designed to manage your psychology? Or are you just unconsciously repeating the same old psychological habits, hoping that this time, somehow, you'll get a different result? The answer to that question is going to determine your entire future as a trader.